Welcome to the passion of entrepreneurship. I am Ravi Tangri, your host, and absolutely delighted to bring you every weekday in June another incredible entrepreneur to explore what fuels them. And today, my guest is Jennifer Buchanan, who runs JB Music Therapy. And Jennifer, welcome to the passion of entrepreneurship.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely delighted. I'm so looking forward to this conversation.
Hmm.
Now, before we get into what happened when you graduated, I'm curious, did you have any sort of an entrepreneurial bug before you went to university, and such as when you were younger?
It's interesting you asked that question. So I was one of those kids where my first real job, that I would call it, was about when I was 11 and a half years old.
Okay.
And I went and I worked at about four doors down from us was a dog grooming salon.
Okay.
And the owner of her home based business
Hmm.
needed some help with washing the dogs. Can you imagine anything more pleasurable than washing a dog
And get
and
paid
the
for it.
occasional cat? Yeah. And so I would go there and I would help her.
Mhm.
And at the same time, thinking about it now, this is very reflective of how I am today. I did a few different things. I started mowing lawns and I also babysat, and I would, do maybe I would help deliver a package. Like there were a variety of different things that I would do from 11 on to make a few dollars. And I was already thinking about what can I do to get through the summer and be engaged also. I loved meeting new people and socializing with them. So that started pretty early on.
So,
Another Yeah, go ahead.
what was it you think that fueled that? I mean, you had the exposure to
Yeah.
this entrepreneur, the dog groomer,
Mhm.
and such. But what else do you think fueled that from that early age to get out there and do that? The socializing you mentioned, but what else?
Yeah. Well, it was also like I can remember her in particular because she just loved what she was doing, and it was really exciting to see someone being able to create um an this opportunity to share a service. She was doing it in her own home. She had her
Hmm.
brochures, she created a logo, and something sparked from that. Uh, I think where it also connected was years later. I had been estranged from my father for a long time.
Okay.
My parents divorced, and I would see my dad maybe once or twice a year, and I felt really uncomfortable around him.
Hmm.
But my dad owned his own business, and I can remember being 18 years old. So now I've done the dog grooming and I've done the
Yeah.
lawns and I've done the babysitting. So I was a little bit ready for something new. And I met up with my dad, and it was one of those really uncomfortable moments at 18. And we were sitting having dinner, and I can remember saying something about, I'm looking for something new in the summer. And my dad said, "Why don't you come and work with me?"
Hmm.
And I thought, that's interesting. And it turned out that my dad was a really, really crappy dad and the best boss I ever had. So
Wow.
I went and I worked with my dad for about 4 months, and he taught me how to do quotes and invoicing and meeting with customers. He took me to meetings. He introduced me to a lot, and I also got to do some technical work. He was in the metal industry, so
Okay.
I was shearing metal. I was doing all sorts of things. And he showed me all the layers of what his business did and how it all worked together. And I think that I love systems. At the end of
Okay.
the day, I love seeing how all the systems work. And there's no greater system than a business system that allows you to express the dream that you have.
Right. So you actually take your dream and concretize it into that. And it's the systems that keep it going because you can't be there all the time to do.
Exactly.
Okay. So that spark, you got that then before you went off to university.
Yeah, and even yeah, before I started knowing I was even going to be a music therapist, but it came in handy because no one had ever heard of music therapy before.
Right.
But that didn't dissuade me because I have now seen a dog groomer start dog grooming in her house. And I saw my dad taking his passion for engineering and shearing metal and creating things and building a business. So I've already seen people do impossible things. What's one more impossible thing?
The key there, though, is you're talking about people that are following their passion. It's not just doing a
Absolutely.
business.
That's right.
So for you, you still had to discover your passion. When you first went to university, you really hadn't found music therapy.
Well, it was interesting. I have had pieces of it along the way. I
Hmm.
certainly loved music and like you, I loved science. I love science
Hmm.
a lot, actually, both on the social side and the more hard science side. And I was thinking several times that I wanted to get into something medical.
Okay.
And so that was there. Uh, and you know, I had people in my life bringing up the term music therapy throughout my life. I saw a program out of the United Kingdom
Hmm.
on a Christmas Eve. Again, it was around when I was about 18 years old, so a lot of things happened then.
Yes.
And I saw this great program. Paul McCartney was introducing the world to what music therapy was. And it was
Really?
called, yeah, and it was called the Nordoff and Robin School in the UK.
Okay.
And I saw this work with music therapists working with kids and and I saw the kids feeling free and successful and learning without necessarily thinking they were learning, but they
Right.
were learning. And I went, that's feeling really in alignment with all the experiences I've had to date. So it sort of all started happening at the same time.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So then, you learned this systems, the structure, this, the social connection you'd already found, and parallel to that is discovering where your passion lay that you
Hmm.
wanted to build out.
Hmm. But I didn't know how hard it was going to be. You know, just because you've got a passion and you've got a whole bunch of things figured out, you don't have it all figured out.
Really?
And and it would lead me down this road where
Hmm.
I would move from British Columbia to Alberta to
Yeah.
Calgary. I would leave all my social supports. I would leave all my family. I had an internship opportunity here. I finished my internship, and then what? What do
Right.
I do now? And that looked like sleeping in my car for a couple of days. That looked like getting a retail job that at least was going to help me get a rooming
Hmm.
house that I could live in. And then it meant a lot of phone calls because the only way I was going to be able to share the work that I so passionately did want to do
Hmm.
was to be entrepreneurial about it and start right from the ground up.
So you had to start because back then music therapy really wasn't known. You
No,
couldn't go get a job.
no, there was nothing. Yeah.
So tell me about that process in terms of building that business. First of all, there's so many things that popped in mind. There's educating people that it's actually a thing.
Right.
And then you've got to get to the logistics of to even do the marketing. You
Right.
need some financial support.
Right. Okay. So this was the first 3 years for sure. There was something. So I eventually found a rooming house, and the rooming house was one where I had to ask, can I pay you at the end of the month? I'm certain I'm going to get enough money and I'm going to be able to pay you. And bless Mr. George's heart. He must have looked at this kid and said, yes, we will make this work. So he gave me a room in his house, which happened to be just down the road from that retail job that I was doing.
Okay.
And it was also just around the corner from a library. Because, Ravi, you've got to remember, this is pre computer, pre
Hmm.
email, pre Google. It's all that. How do you find work? And I don't know. I used to go to the university library, but I don't know if I've ever really entered a lot of city libraries in my time. But something drew me there. I walked in, and I will never forget her. She was behind the distribution desk. Is that what you call
Yeah.
the desk? Yeah, the distribution desk at the library. She was standing right there. I walked up, and I'm sure I just spewed about what music therapy was and what I was doing in the city, and that I was brand new and I didn't know what I was doing. And she said the magic words, I can help you. Oh gosh. And when I heard that, and she looked at me with such meaning and intention, I knew she was going to help me. And she turned around and she went searching through shelving in the back, and she brought out this thing called the Blue Book.
Okay.
And yeah, the blue book. And the blue book is what you would Google today to find
Yeah.
all of the clients that you would want to serve. So there's going to be clients for all industries, and you've got something else. But in my profession, it's
Mhm.
going to be a list of the executive directors and the nonprofit organizations and those serving a variety of people that are have goals and are going through transitions, and I wasn't allowed to take the book out. So she said, do you have any money? And I didn't have a lot, but I had a little bit, and I had enough that I was able to start with the photocopying of a few pages. She let me photocopy some of them,
Yeah.
and I would take those pages home, and I would have a highlighter pen. And from there, I would make the first call. And I know this doesn't happen very often, but the first call said yes. And they invited me into this beautiful group home. I'm going to say their name because it was amazing. Scenic Bow Legion Group Home 104. That was the
Okay.
name of the place. And they welcomed me into their home. And that Friday night, I facilitated my first session in my first home, and they booked me every Friday night. And that
Wow.
was the start. That was the start.
So I want to just take a small step back. The
Hmm.
idea of cold calling is a huge barrier for most people.
Yep.
So you went back to your room in the rooming house, you highlighted those pages.
Yeah.
What did you do to get the strength to pick up that phone and call? What did you have to go through that first time?
Yeah, I was nervous, and I still get nervous. I still don't enjoy that part of it at all. Um, if you what helps me anyways is um, first of all, knowing that what you do works.
Hmm.
So be confident in that, that what you do is going to make a difference in somebody's life. And I knew that already. Um, I also wasn't stepping way out of scope. I knew that going to this particular population and working in this group home, I had already had practicums in those settings, so I had
Okay.
experience. I'd been there before, so you can go in with a certain level of competence and confidence with it. And then what it is telling people a story. And we talk about this all the time. It's allowing people in their minds to see what's going to happen before it even happens.
This is during
And
the call.
it is during the call.
Hmm.
And then it ends with a I'd love to show you. I'd love to show you that. So that's how this has worked for me anyway.
That's amazing. So, and from there, from getting that first gig and then becoming a weekly gig, then you've got something to use another story to build on with the next calls. And
Exactly. Yeah.
okay. So, another challenge that's, and particularly back then, you and I started our businesses similar times,
Mhm.
uh, that it, that business owners have is if they're not, say, in manufacturing or in a traditional service that banks get,
Mhm.
uh, getting financial support can be really challenging. How was your journey in that?
It was impossible. It
Okay.
was absolutely impossible. So, in regards to professional supports at the time, I tried a few different ways because I did know I would need those. So the first thing I did was get an accountant.
Mhm.
And that first accountant, when I laid out my business plan, and even though I had what I felt was a pretty decent plan for a junior entrepreneur entering into a field, the accountant looked at it, and the first thing they said is, this isn't going to fly in this city. That was my first response. I went on to another accountant. So I
I love it. I
I
love it.
knew I needed some help. But the same thing kept happening with the banks.
Mhm.
The banks were real problematic for me. The most I was able to do in the first 10 years of my business and going to the banks, and even though I was able to show defined growth,
Yeah,
in order to scale my business, I still needed some capital. In those first 10 years, the most I could really get was a credit card. Everyone's happy to
yeah,
give you credit to pay at 21% interest. That seemed to not be a problem. But to even get a line of credit or something at a lower interest rate, that was impossible for me unless I had a house to put up to do it. And I didn't have a house at that time. I was fresh out of school and I was completely under having student loans again that were, remember how high
right.
the interest rate were on our
Back
student
then,
loans?
yeah.
It was so terrible. And so this has been a struggle. And I really got turned off banks. I have to say that in general, and I tried a variety of different ones.
Hmm.
Um, I have also found that even today, my staff, who are salaried staff, they have
Right.
an easier time getting loans or getting mortgages because they can show the piece of paper that I give them to say that they have a job. But I'm still a business owner in a service industry, and it's not as easy. I have to work pretty hard for that. And I've always wondered about that a little bit, but yeah, it hasn't been so simple. And so I gave up on that. I gave up with the fact I was going to get any financial assistance whatsoever, or just support, professional support.
Right.
I wasn't going to get any of that. And so it was going to be up to me. And up to me meant a lot of those cold calls, building a portfolio. And then I got pregnant,
Hmm.
which is a whole other thing. Now,
Yeah.
what do I do? Now, what do I do? And so my private practice quickly turned into a company because I had an opportunity to hire somebody. And I started hiring music therapists. And now I'm no longer in business just for myself, by
Right.
myself, but I've got a team and I've never looked back. And we didn't need the bank. We're 29 years in and we're doing okay.
Yeah. So you've built yourself on your own earnings.
Had to. Yeah. Yep.
It's interesting. One of the other business owners that I interviewed a couple of weeks ago, she's a fashion designer, and she by choice grew solely on retained earnings.
Right.
And
Exactly.
once she had a couple of stores, the banks were interested, but she just, nope, I'm gonna.
Exactly. Exactly. They're all of a sudden interested now.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the adage is when you need them,
Right.
they're not there, but when you don't
Right.
need them, they're knocking themselves over.
Exactly.
So, and now what about in terms of that when you started bringing people on? That's a big shift from a sole proprietorship to
Huge.
now you're running a company, because you're now, first of all, you're probably doing less of what you love,
Mm,
which was the music therapy,
mm,
and now you're doing more of the running the business
mhm.
side, right?
Yeah.
With the e-myth thing about the different hats that you
Mm,
wear, you're
mhm. Yeah.
you know doing more of the business running hat. How did you handle that transition?
Well, first of all, I read that book, The
Yeah.
E-Myth, and it was brilliant. Um, so here's where it goes back now to my childhood and some of the things I like.
Hmm.
The good news was I do love systems. I love
Okay.
creating systems. I love creating strategy. That's a part of me that I really do enjoy doing. And I've never given up doing the technical part of music therapy. I still do it today. Will probably always be somewhere within the technical world as well as in the on the business part. So in my business and around my business, and when people say, "Are you working on your business today?" Oh, yes, but I also like working in my business in
Yes.
the trenches, right? So it is all there. But you are correct. Shifting the responsibility of shifting from solopreneur into a team. I wasn't perfect at that. I wasn't excellent at that, actually. I didn't know how to do that.
Okay.
I learned. And again, it was about finding the professional resources I needed, and I foibled a lot. And I look back at my earliest teams and I apologize from the depth of my soul that I know that I was not able to create the culture and the experience that you deserved to have. I did the best I could with what I knew, but it's not what I'm able to do now. And I wish I could go back and give them a better experience than what I was able to give them. And it also took a long time to find the right team
Hmm.
because you're not sure what you're going to need. And the diversity on my team now, uh, so many of them, they're the technicians. They are awesome music therapists, but they're
Yeah.
also good on the admin side, and they're also good at the sales side, and they're also good in the management side. And
Okay.
it's fun sharing all the jobs with everybody. So we've been able to create something that is helping us through a difficult time like right now. I couldn't do it without them.
Right.
Um,
So,
it's team. Yeah,
so you're doing so your music therapists aren't just the technicians, if you will, doing the music therapy. They're also involved in the
they are
running side of
involved.
the business.
Mhm.
Wow.
And everyone at different levels,
Hmm.
but because they're out with our clients one-on-one, so they have to be good at communications and
Yes.
expressing what they're doing. They are
Hmm.
representatives of the work
Yeah.
and of music therapy as a whole. Like, it's not just our company. We are, because music therapy is still new in the country, we
Hmm.
have to be good representatives of what the work really is.
Right.
And They are excellent at that. And they're also learning. We have team trainings every Monday morning, and we will go through things that are on our mind and what's difficult, and help each other through the challenges. So it's an incredible workplace for me to
Right.
be in, as well as I hope for them.
So, just backtracking again, that journey of letting go
Hmm.
as you brought the team on, you said, that you learned along the way. What are some of the things that you did to be able to get, people will do things in different ways, and sometimes they can do it better than you in their own ways. Uh,
Right.
w- can you share a couple of things you did to be able to adapt to that, to be able to let go and allow them to
Yeah.
find their way?
The one thing I've done is stopped focusing on trying to fix any person's gap or weakness. I don't
Okay.
focus there at all anymore. That's what, because it's my perception of what a
Hmm.
gap and a weakness is. It's not necessarily a gap or a weakness. I focus 100% on people's strengths. Where
Okay.
are they naturally aligned? What is their strength, and what? Let's focus on strengthening our strengths.
I love that.
And that's key to our entire business, and what you're good at. So if you are feeling that you are best in a one-to-one setting, we're really going to help foster a way for you to be really strong in that setting, while also dipping your toes into facilitating groups.
Right.
But it may also be that, just prior to this, to COVID right now, one of my staff started bubbling up around being very strong in systems and creating systems. And I could tell she was seeing a few things we needed to tweak. Well, with COVID and our caseload dropping below 50%, moving those clients
Right.
virtually, gave me the opportunity to get to know her better and
Hmm.
what her strengths were. And through some projects that she was able to develop, they really strengthened not only the company, but all of us as individuals within our professional practice. It's been wonderful to bring her on board. So she's now called the systems manager.
Oh, you're even allowing yourself to let go, step back from the
I
systems too.
know, right?
Wow. Bravo for you.
Thanks.
So on this journey, like, you can't be in business this long without having caca hit the fan at different times.
Mm.
Could you share perhaps something, one time that might have happened? What is it that got you through that?
Yeah, there's been a few. Um, you know, when I actually started the business, it was a
Hmm.
significant economic downturn in 1991. Anyone who was around then,
Hmm.
there was a lot of things that were happening even at the start,
Yeah.
and I think that set the foundation for all the economic downturns that were going to happen um,
Okay.
after that. A very significant challenge. Gosh, I don't know if there's been one bigger than what we're going through now, which
Okay.
is the actual, like this second, I think I'm going through the hardest one, which is going back to work.
Hmm.
The shutdown was easier than our transition right now, that
Wow.
I'm not sure how long it's going to take.
Hmm.
I can no longer forecast. Normally I'm a long-term thinker, and I'm having a hard time.
We can't,
We can't.
because it could shut down again in a few months.
Right.
Yeah.
And our clients are in long-term care.
Right.
Our clients are in hospitals. So we are doing a hybrid of services right now, of virtual services as well as in-person services, but we still are 50% down in revenue. So this is a this is taking grit. This is taking daily dedication for me that um, I dream about at night is a vacation. I,
But we
I'm
can't go
dream.
anywhere.
We can't go anywhere, and then having to shift my mindset into what am I doing today? Um, I
Right.
I have I have to be as present as I possibly can, and I miss the long term thinking. I'm still dreaming, but I want to keep everyone safe and healthy and
Yeah.
secure. Yeah. So this is the toughest time, Ravi, for sure.
So, and especially since, so much of your work is in the highest risk areas of our
Mm-hmm.
community, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with this, and this uncertainty, and I know understand what you're saying, that you like that long-term planning, you like to be that, and you've sort of got to dance more in the moment now.
Mm-hmm.
How are you supporting and nurturing yourself through this?
Mm. That's really good. Well, um, I so if we go back to the strengthening our strengths part,
Mm-hmm.
um, I am fortunate that one of my strengths has been to have real quality relationships around me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am digging deep into the people that are around me. I'm becoming more comfortable with asking for that elusive help when you need it. And
You're
I
asking for
know,
help?
I know.
Wow, that is honestly, that is huge for
It's
entrepreneurs.
huge.
Yeah.
But it's also going back to knowing I need professional supports in my life,
Hmm.
and I also need friends in my life, and my husband and I need to be doing well together because now we're
Hmm.
working in the same area. And so there's all those things that, putting more time into my relationships has
Hmm.
been key. And uh, it's been an opportunity to do that, and so that's been one. The other thing is I'm taking the time to go through my business plan, and I this is something I do twice a year anyways,
Yeah.
but this is adding a third time to this year because a lot of rejigging is going to have to be made.
Yes.
I am doing all the things. I am, revisiting our language. With all the things coming up right now with COVID, but also Black Lives Matter, with also ensuring that we are being aware of what's happening in the world. What just securing our language in that, recognizing the needs of our clients and ensuring we're identifying those, making sure we're accessible, which, one of the things that I've sadly found out, and the reason why we weren't able to successfully move into virtual, is that a lot of the people that we serve do not have any access to tech.
Right.
Access is critical. So how can I support making that happen?
Hmm.
Where I'm looking at our entire SWOT analysis, I'm looking at our strengths, I'm revisiting opportunities. I ignore my threats. I can't control those. And I don't spend a lot of time in our weaknesses. I'd rather see how many weaknesses I can shift up to an opportunity. So those are all the things that I can do right now, and as well as getting set up with lighting and the right microphone and testing. This is like my sixth microphone. Is this working out today?
It is working fine.
Great. So
And you
we can
work with microphones all the time.
we do, and I'm changing them depending on what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
it's been so interesting. So all those things we can do right now because my world, and I know everybody's world, has shifted forever, JB Music Therapy will now provide virtual music therapy as well as in-person music therapy. And we're going to dedicate to make sure we can reach all the clients who need our services and be accessible to them, especially during their times of need. So we're trying to figure that out.
Well, and what that says to me is that immediately amplifies your market to global.
Right.
And so you've got to think about different times and, there's all sorts of opportunity that is there.
Right.
The
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and this is where also the speaking comes into, Ravi, right? Like where we can provide the global education, global information, and then attach it to the services that we also provide. Like you can see the funnel of support and impact that we can make with the variety of services that you can both of us provide.
Yeah.
And so this is how we can help at this time and live that passion we're talking about.
And something else I want to come back to is where you said, I love the way that, okay, can't do anything about the threats, the weaknesses. The thing I've found, I've done strategic planning for over 30 years, and a lot of people do SWOT, but I find they go through it and then they go make the plan and they never pay attention to what they did anyway, right?
Right.
There's another system which is aligned with what you're talking about, which is based on appreciative inquiry, which is called SOAR.
Oh,
And
yes. Tell me more.
The
Tell me more again.
strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and then results. You concretize it down into results. So it moves it into a plan. And I find that works so much better. You need to be aware of the threats, absolutely, of the weaknesses. Yeah. But if you can, back to your strengths-based approach, I'm very much of that. And I do that working with individuals, but also with organizations. SOAR is very, very aligned with that. With a strengths-based approach. So in this time, you've shared what you've been doing. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who are challenged with this time. Their business has just sometimes stopped and they don't know how they're going to move forward in this new world. Everything is changed. What advice would you give them in terms of finding a way to move forward?
And that's the reality. And we're all going to be on the spectrum of barriers of depending on what industry you're in and what your business model is. But you're also going to be on the spectrum of opportunity. Yeah. And so it's about recognizing that. So if you are just feeling barrier after barrier after barrier after barrier, it really does come to recognizing that and doing as we call the lean in approach, lean into it and what sort of feelings are coming there. But believing that you don't have to have it all figured out to move forward is the most critical decision. You have to know that as entrepreneurs, the best thing we know how to do is take a next step. It might not be the dream step. It might not be the giant leap that you so desperately want to happen. It might be just a quarter of a step, just putting your foot a little bit ahead, but it's a step. And we need to do that every day. It's about sitting at your desk and, if you're a goal setter, setting your goals. If you're a list maker, setting your list. If you're a visionary, it's one dream for the day. So again, find what your strength is, move into that direction because you've got it. And if you can at all call yourself an entrepreneur, you've got it. You can take that next step, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I sort of go with that meme, with me, that if you take a step forward and then a step back, it's not a step back. It's just the cha-cha because you're going to go back forward. I'm a dancer.
Right. It's so good.
You get in the rhythm of it.
Yeah. You get in the rhythm of it. Yeah.
This has been absolutely delightful, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me on this.
Oh, Ravi, I love talking about this. So thank you so much for having me on your program and good luck for the rest of June. This is a
Yes.
really great thing to be offering entrepreneurs from across the country and global. Are you going global yourself, do you think?
Yeah, yeah. We've got
Yeah.
people from well, fairly go from Europe, from
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's
and
good.
into the States. So yeah, not
Oh,
totally
yeah.
global, but we're working with what we can with the time zones. So
I love that.
Jennifer, what if people want to get a hold of you? What are the best places for them to reach you?
Yeah, so the best places to reach me. So if you're interested in learning more about my company, go to jbmusictherapy.com. And if you're interested in learning about coaching, I do provide health entrepreneur coaching. So if you're in a service-based industry, especially in healthcare and education field, I provide coaching, both group and one-on-one services. And I also provide presentations. Both on the small business side as well as music therapy. And you can find that at jenniferbuchanan.ca.
That's wonderful. Thank you
Great.
so much.
Thank you.
And also, folks, next Thursday, just wanted to let you know if you are a business owner, um, is the one day I'm not doing this show in June. We are having an online conference. So excited about with an incredible lineup of speakers for leaders on how do you move forward through this time? How do you support your team through this time? So just go to leadershiprx.com and you can get all of the information there. We've got a phenomenal slate. We have Michelle Cederberg, Tyler Hayden, Michelle Ray, and I'll be facilitating all the ideas you get, how do you put them into action before you finish there. And this is not a Zoom meeting. This is not a go-to meeting. It is an amazing platform that's going to be just like being at an in-person event. So thank you for tuning in,
Thank
Jennifer. Thank
you.
you again.
Thanks, everybody.
And we will see you tomorrow.